All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Patriots First and Goal. I am Alex Shane, breaking down the Drake Maye NFL football debut against the Houston Texans and all things Week 7 and the Patriots matchup in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Only the finest in the NFL goes over to London this week. Obviously, two of the best teams in the NFL getting ready to square off for all the Londoners. Rich Hill, I'm trying to think of the last time I felt this good about a Patriots blowout loss, and I honestly can't think of anything. Obviously, a lot to work on, but you have to be happy with what you saw overall on Sunday against the Texans.
Totally. I mean, I think the last time after any loss that I felt this good was back in 2014 when they lost to the Packers on the road in Green Bay. It was in the midst of a big winning streak for them. They lost down to the wire, showed some good fight against a good Packers team. And that was the first time where I was like, oh, this team, post on to Cincinnati, this is a team that can compete against anyone. And I obviously didn't get that same exact sense here with the Patriots because they got smoked by the Texans. But Alec, is Drake Maye the best quarterback in Patriots history?
Obviously. I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, I haven't seen a throw like that one to Boutte since like Drew Bledsoe. No one can throw like that. Great. Let's get into Rich. First and goal. Texans breakdown. Obviously, 41-21 isn't exactly any kind of good score from a defensive standpoint, but turnovers were a problem. There were a couple of drives that started inside like the 30. I don't think the score really reflects it. I do think this defense, maybe we'll talk about the defense for a little bit and then really focus more on Drake Maye, but there is a problem. Why the hell, Rich Hill, can't this team stop the run to save their life? It seems to me the talent on the field should be able to stop their run, but they're giving up 150 yards a game. And it's not like putting Christian Barmore and Jabril Peppers and Juwan Bentley back there. They're magically going to give up less yards. So what's going on with the running game? That's a huge problem.
Yeah, I mean, one is like I do think that they would help. Right, that's one area where Barmore is a top defensive tackle in the league, and Ekwale, fine player, is not Barmore. And when you have that weakness in the middle of your entire defensive line, and then you add in the fact that you are missing your top linebacker, there goes your entire defensive interior. And as a result, you just get a lot of running production happening against you. And that's one. The other one, and Mayo talks about this all the time, is just a lot of breakdowns and fundamentals and mental approach where they are just missing tackles. They are not completing their plays. They are not playing to the whistle to bring the players down. How often do we see the initial contact where then the other team all of a sudden breaks free and goes to that second level? And that just happens too much for it to be okay. And it's something that they have to address over time. But that is something that feels like a continuation of what we saw in those last couple of Belichick years, where there's just complete breakdowns in the basic parts of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder. I mean, I guess I'll kind of bundle this question with another one I ask you. If it's fundamental breakdown, you're still seeing mental error. You're still seeing some stupid penalties that are extending plays and whatnot. If you want to couple that with maybe I'm a little sensitive to it after 20 years of the button-lipped Bill Belichick, but given how transparent Jerod Mayo is with the media, given how transparent and free players seem to be with expressing their opinions, what their things are on and off the field, do you think maybe Jerod Mayo is going a little too much in the I am not Bill Belichick direction, and it might behoove not only him but the team to that button-up attitude you talked about, to me rein it a little bit and keep things a little more in-house? I can't feel like they're not really doing themselves any favors being so transparent with everything, and maybe it's translating onto the field.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain areas where you want your players to be their authentic selves, right? Like if they care about a cause, you want them to be able to talk about it. There's also a situation where you have Jerod Mayo putting his foot in his mouth multiple times this offseason about we're going to spend all of this money. And then everyone else has to be like, no, we're not going to do that. And then at the end of the preseason, Drake Maye's clearly outplayed Jacoby Brissett. And then you go through the first however many games of the season and everyone's like, well, obviously, why are we playing Jacoby? And then you have other little sound bites of Mayo being like, Brissett's out there doing what we're asking him to do. He's taking some hits. And so it's like, oh, okay, he is out there just until the offensive line solidifies. And even this week, where he came out in his press conference on Wednesday and talked about how there's going to be changes in the lineup because there's been mental errors and that just can't happen. And so they're going to make changes. And those are the sorts of things that you kind of want to keep in-house, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a situation where you don't want to have the discourse out in public. You want to be able to have it inside behind closed walls so you can show that unified front. Because how would you feel if you were that player, if you were Jacoby during the preseason, if you were the players that are going to get benched this week, to have your coach airing out that laundry in front of everybody? That's not good for team morale. This is not a situation where that transparency serves to, show that, we're a modern team or something like that. That really just speaks to, hey, we need to have more of a filter because you're sharing this with people who aren't necessarily your friends, right? This shouldn't just be an open conversation. It's a little too casual when, there's actual impacts on these people's careers that is going to take place when you're being a little too open.
Yeah, I mean, like I really do think, how can that not translate on the field? Like I understand that Jerod Mayo is coming in the shadow of Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick is probably the most infamous coach of all time in terms of press conferences. He never said anything to anybody, and Jerod Mayo wants to maybe differentiate himself as a new approach, kind of a new leaf being turned over in New England. But I can't help but feel like they'd all do well to rein in a little bit. You don't have to totally go Bill Belichick on it. You want to rein in a little bit. I can't help but feel like that will trickle down onto the on-field approach and maybe allow them to solidify the team a little more and play a little bit more teeth on defense. The good news, though, Rich, I don't think the defense cost the Patriots the game in this respect, and that it was all D, and then the offense couldn't pull their weight. We saw more touchdown passes in this game than Brissett's entire tenure with the Patriots in 2024. So I think there's a lot of positives to take away. I don't want to spend too much of our first down talking about the negatives of the defense because the real focus is Drake Maye. I think he did great. I think my favorite element of that game are the two things I want to really touch on. One, it was very obvious to me, at least, that the first snap and the last snap, he got better throughout the game. Yep. You could actually see him getting better in real time, which is pretty cool. The second one, I love that all the mistakes he made were bad throws and not bad reads. His first interception, he had Douglas on a crosser wide open. He's overthrew it, a little too anxious. That's fine. He had a couple go into the dirt, a couple go over the head. There was that ridiculous tipped screen interception. That's just an amazing.
Not his fault.
It was a blindside strip sack. That wasn't his fault either. I didn't count. If there was a play where he's made a bad read, I don't remember what it was. And I will take physical errors over mental errors every single time, especially given the Mac Jones era where he was just making these throws. And we were both like, where the hell was he going with that? Yep. Every single mistake Drake Maye made, I saw what he was trying to do. And the fact that he's a better quarterback now than he was this time last week gives me a lot of hope for games going forward.
Totally. I mean, the drives that he put together, obviously it's going to become more consistent, but you could see so many positives happening. First off, my last thought on the defense, there was 24 points that came from drives that the Texans started over the midfield. Yeah. Right? They're on their last three short fields, they got 17 points on just 40 yards total, something like that, where they were just set up to score points. That's last thought on Mayo thing. Mayo probably shouldn't have thrown the defense under the bus. Obviously have a little bit of pride in some circumstances. Those big plays shouldn't be allowed, but game wasn't on them.
Nope.
On the offensive side, you got career days from Demario Douglas, Keyshawn Boutte. You had some of, I think it was the lowest pressure rate this entire year for the Patriots against a very good Texans pass rush. This is a great overall progress. And the only variable that changed was Drake Maye under center. From my goal, I would love to see Jalen Polk become super involved, although he feels like he is being limited intentionally by the coaching staff and what he's allowed to do out there. I would love for Baker to flourish. I'd love for Bourne to, shake off the rust and get more involved. But if over the second half of the year, we can walk away saying Maye is the guy, Douglas is the guy, and we have a good other receiver in Boutte, this has been a massive success of a year.
Absolutely. I mean, this game was also played without Ramondre Stevenson, who's been their best offensive weapon up to date. nursing an injury, so he will be back pretty soon. I thought Antonio Gibson filled in really well. Hunter Henry got involved in the offense, and newly signed center, literally off the street, making his first start, Ben Brown. Pretty impressed with him, honestly, given how little time he had to prepare to become kind of the captain of a line. Things are only going to get better. I really believe that, and I think the Jaguars game's coming at an absolutely perfect time. These are two pretty terrible teams, and these London games are such a crapshoot that I can't imagine there'll be any kind of regression for Drake Maye going forward. But again, overall, I'm pleased with it. The only thing I'll say that I really didn't like about the game was that I felt that the game was out of hand, and Drake Maye had like one more drive with like a minute and a half left. I felt they kind of just ran the clock out unnecessarily. Yep. Like, why not let him try and score one? 41-28, it's not going to matter. He throws a pick, who cares? That was a great chance to practice like some 2-minute offense. That they really missed an opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this before the season. Is like, should they just treat the first half of the year when they have this just absolute brutal stretch to start the year? Should they just treat this as an extended preseason? Like, they very realistically and probably valuably could have used that time, get those live snaps in. I understand also that they had more injuries on the offensive line. They can't afford to lose anyone else. That maybe that's not the right time. Maybe you don't want to try to really go for it and have it feel like a sign of disrespect and have the Texans go all out and hurt your quarterback. So it's one where I wish they could have gotten more value out of that last little bit, but I also get why. I get why they pulled the plug.
No, I do too. But again, one thing I'd like to see, like they had a chance to score. It's like an etiquette thing. I don't know. I want to see them get Kayshon Boutte more involved in the offense. I really think he could be. I think every rep he's gotten since September, he's done good things with. Totally. Finally got his first career touchdown. Demario Douglas finally got his first career touchdown. And I think a receiving core, maybe a starting three of Boutte, Douglas, and Kendrick Bourne, I can work with that. With that, and maybe bring Tyquan Thornton in every once in a while on like a 5 wide receiver set to like run a go route or something to clear the defense off. But I think those 3 receivers with Hunter Henry and then Ramondre Stevenson, that's like a passable offense. I'm not saying they're going to light the league on fire, but that's all I want to see, a passable offense. And maybe Polk can come in, maybe get over his drops, and he can kind of emerge later on in the season. All I want, but if those 3 players can really kind of continue to. I personally think that Bourne is part of their future in some capacity. I don't think this is his last season in New England. Maybe you disagree. I know you're a big Bourne guy. But I feel like Bourne can be had for pretty cheap. He seems to like it here. And I feel like there may be, if those 3 guys can develop and become a decent trio, there may be one skill player away from being from a passable offense to a pretty decent offense.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, how much of it just comes with the development of the players. This is a situation where they've invested a fair bit in these young receivers. Maybe they bring in a veteran star to come and really push them over the top. But the real progress of this offense will come with May getting more experienced, Douglas getting more experience, Boutte, just whichever receiver starts to develop, whether it's Polk, Boutte, Baker, them progressing. But really it comes with the offensive line. If they can figure that out, if they spend every last penny that they have next year in free agency on improving the offensive line and not going bargain bin shopping, if they can bring in 5 above average players, or, they have one way. They only need to get 4 above average players, and maybe you feel good about one of your guards turning out and Andrews returning. You just bring in a couple of better players. This is going to be an average offense, right? If they scoring 21 points against a good defense is a solid outing. If you can have better defensive production overall that we're used to seeing, and also not have as many turnovers. And so, if they can inch their way towards a top 20 offense this year, then I think that they will continue that trajectory next year as everyone just gets a little bit older.
Yeah, I mean, they can't really get much worse, right? It's really nowhere to go but up. Again, I've never thought I'd say this, Rich, but I legitimately feel like the impending return of Cole Strange is going to be a good thing for this offensive line. There's talk of moving him to center. He's played center in the past, but I feel like he's maybe not worth a first-round pick, but he's a starting caliber offensive lineman in the NFL. I'll give him that much, and it's not as much as I can say about other players who've been on this line for the first quarter to half of the season.
Yeah.
So Strange is coming back. The line will get better. Maybe Ben Brown is this kind of diamond in the rough that's not crazy to think about. He's been around the league long enough to know how to play center. So maybe they're slowly finding themselves to a serviceable line. And I wouldn't say that Maye is more mobile than Brissett, but he seems to have a little bit quicker release than Brissett, a little better instincts than Brissett. And there were, I counted at least 2 times, Rich Hill. I never want to get into the officiating and how awful the officiating is across the league, but I counted 2 times when the Texans jumped off sides and they were like in the backfield before the ball was even snapped. They didn't call it, and neither were for negative plays because I think Drake Maye has kind of the instinct to get the hell out of there. Maybe that goes back to UNC days where his team was kind of so bad he had to carry the offense by himself. Yep. So maybe he's kind of just translating really, really nicely. But again, I think I like what I saw a lot out of this kid, like where his head's at, and I think there's nowhere to go but up. I'm hoping there's not going to be some kind of second game slump coming up against the Jaguars, but I don't think there is.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, the biggest feeling that I had after was like, man, if they started him against the Dolphins, they would have another win on their. Yeah. And so they have a very soft part of their schedule coming up. And I think their next, 6, 7, 8 games are pretty winnable. They're at the road against the Jaguars in London. They have the Jets, who are an enigma. They're either the worst team in the league or somehow they can stomp the Patriots. Then you have the Titans, who are competing for one of the worst teams in the league, along with the Patriots and the Jaguars. You have the Bears in Chicago, which should be hard, but they also have a rookie quarterback. Who knows? Things can happen. The Rams are really bad right now. The Dolphins might have Tua back, but they've been very, very bad. The Colts are really, really bad. They have Patriots on a bye week, and then they're at Arizona, which is like a low-tier team with the Cardinals. So this is a stretch where if Maye can continue to build and build, I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of mirrored Mac Jones's rookie year. Remember that stretch that he had where he just was putting up 50 points against some teams, and then he came down to earth during the last couple of weeks of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Patriots have the Bills the last couple of weeks of the season that happens again. But I can see this being a really big confidence booster stretch of the year. And as you said, for this game, the last deck drive, he was a lot better than he was on the first one. I would just love to see that ongoing development of comfort in a sense of he knows what he's doing. He's seen some live pressure in plays, and also that continued progression of Pop Douglas and some of the other receivers. I think Booty, I agree with you. Every time he's taken the field, he's made the most of his opportunities, which is way more than you can say of any of the other receivers that the Patriots have put out in recent years, is that he catches the things that go to him and he makes something happen. And if they can all continue to develop together, then I'll have a lot of confidence about this being a success of a year.
You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Hey, sign up today. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. This week on the Prize Picks football board, Justin Jefferson for more than 83.5 receiving yards and Patrick Mahomes for less than 267.5 passing yards. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Again, each week, progress. I felt like we were treading water for 6 weeks and now, or 5 weeks, and now we are no longer treading water. We'll continue to swim forward into week 7. Let's get the second down, Rich Hill. Week 7, we're already approaching the halfway point of the NFL season. I have no idea how that happened, but it always does. And as always, week 7 here is brought to you by Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to you all because all you do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. That's right. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. It puts its members first, so with all withdrawals, they are fast, they are safe and secure. That means when your picks hit, you get your money in as quickly as 15 minutes. Plus, if you sign up today, you can get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. That's $50 bonus if you play just $5. It also offers weekly promotions and weekly fun things. I know NBA is coming up, and they have a fun Anthony Edwards square against the Lakers on the 22nd. If Anthony Edwards scores 1 point, you get a win. That means 1 point for Anthony Edwards gets you 1 win opening night. So go to NBA, make your picks on Prize Picks. All right, Rich Hill. Week 7. Here we are, kicking off with Broncos Saints, which I couldn't care less about. Most people are not going to get up for Jaguars Patriots. I feel like it's not going to be an overly well-watched game. But the game I'm going to be watching the most, I'm amazed this is not flexed into prime time, is Chiefs 49ers, a Super Bowl rematch, probably the game of the week. Possible Super Bowl preview, although the Chiefs don't look great right now. Who knows? What game do you like about this week for week 7, Rachel?
You're not excited for the Sean Payton Bowl on Thursday Night Football?
No,
not
thanks.
one bit. I want the Saints to roll. I want the Saints to win by 40. I would love to see that happen. I mean, there are going to be some pretty imbalanced games here. Bills-Titans is going to be gross. Commanders-Panthers is going to be pretty gross. But there are some games that I feel like will be relatively good. Ravens-Bucks, sneaky good game. Buccaneers are doing really well this year. Ravens are probably the best team in the AFC if I had to choose. I know that the Chiefs have their record, but I feel like the Ravens are a very good team. And so that one could be good. Lions-Vikings is going to be a very good game. You get the division aspect of it, but they're two of the best teams in the entire league from a production standpoint. And so those will be what I'm looking for. Ones I won't be watching, Bengals at Browns. Browns are on a fire sale mode. I'm assuming that they'll just have a scrap heap of players on the roster in the coming weeks. But that is going to be probably the worst game of the week if I had to choose one.
Yeah, it's up there. Again, I'm not overly excited about Dolphins Colts either. That's probably two teams that are going to be floundering. This is one of those games the Bills are going to lose to the Titans for some reason, because the Bills always seem to drop games like this every week. But I'm most curious about also keeping the Bills, keeping the AFC East. The AFC East just got 2 new receivers, Rich Hill. Devontae Adams reunited with Aaron Rodgers on the Jets, and Amari Cooper, who a lot of people had going to the Patriots in a trade or next year, is now a Buffalo Bill. Amari Cooper, to me, if you told me he had no catches or hit 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, I'd be equally unsurprised by that. He's that kind of weird receiver. Yep. Great ad for the Bills. I feel like they got him for a cheap amount. The one that's really intriguing to me, though, is the Devontae Adams move. Obviously, Rodgers Adams have a connection, but I can't for the life of me figure out if that's going to do anything for that franchise. I feel like the Jets are just always going to find a way to do themselves wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, they just fired their head coach. Are they all in? Like, what's happening? Like, the defense wasn't the problem. You fire your defensive mind coach. You wouldn't let him fire the worst offensive coordinator in the league. And like, Patriots had the worst offense. Hackett is the worst offensive coordinator. And I don't understand what the Jets are doing. Nope. Love that Bill Belichick was openly throwing shade at the Jets, being like, Jets are going to do what they do. That owner just, likes to make these rash decisions. It's just like, who knows what they're going to do, but that's what the Jets have always been. And he was just dancing on them right now. But yeah, I mean, me, it's more of like, were the Patriots considering making any of these moves? Like, I'm sure Devontae was like, Aaron Rodgers or nothing. Yeah. Totally. I get that. Do you think Amari Cooper had that same sway with the Browns, or could the Patriots have put together a better offer than what the Bills did? Because it was like a 3rd round pick and a 7th, and they got Amari Cooper and a 6th round pick. So it really was like Cooper for a 3rd. And he's like a 30-year-old player who's gotten like 1,000 yards in each of the past, like 6 of this past 7 years or something like that. Like, he's a reliable, good player. Yep. So I'm a bit surprised by how affordable that was.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Amari Cooper, A, has that much pull with the Browns front office, and B, the Browns would not take any deal. They're not like a franchise that I've really seen with certain players be like, oh, we're going to factor in how you feel when we make this decision. And the Browns are notorious for taking horrible trades. So maybe the Patriots could have fleeced them and gotten Amari Cooper. Look, would the Patriots have been better with Amari Cooper? 100%. But maybe they have something else going on. Maybe there are some rumors that like Jamar Chase is disgruntled, and I just don't see that happening. But you never know. I think there will be a receiver coming to the Patriots in some capacity. I don't know how. I think maybe it might be a scenario where ideally, I'm hoping, knock on wood, receivers around the league are going to watch Drake Maye play for a couple more games. They're going to see the upside this kid has. They're going to see the potential. And there will not be a scenario like there was this last offseason where receivers like, I'll come play to New England if you pay me all the money and give me zero on discounts. I'll come. But otherwise, we're not going to be in a scenario where players will take less to come play with Tom Brady and win a ring. That's just gone. So maybe they're thinking maybe if they showcase Drake Maye a bit more, it'll be easier to attract those receivers. But who knows?
Totally. Well, I mean, like thinking of last year, it's like I would not have been willing to pay Calvin Ridley what they needed to pay. Brandon Ayuk would not have been happy if they had signed him for that amount. And so it's a situation where Cooper at his price point, Adams at his price point, totally. But I think it'll be more of, I'd rather them get T. Higgins and pay him all the money and have him be the outside receiver for them. And so I agree, honestly, maybe it'll make them be a more appetizing place for people to land if they think that they have the quarterback, because everyone likes to be part of like that rebuilding legacy story. And if they feel like there's the right person to lead them there, then more people will want to come.
Here's hoping. But again, we will see this week again. Not a stellar slate of games in week 7, but not some good ones in there. And as you say all the time, Rich, it's the ones you're not excited about that always turn into the barn burners. Lions-Vikings. Talk about that one. That's going to be a good game. Psyched about that one. The Vikings are undefeated somehow. The Lions are nasty. Possible NFC Championship preview there. NFC North matchup. That should be good. But it all kicks off. Well, not Thursday because no one watches that, but it all kicks off Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m., bright and early. Patriots, Jaguars. We're going to break that game down, offense and defense, after this.
Hey, everybody. Alex Shane here from Patriots First and Goal, talking all about Game Time. Game Time is the best way to get tickets to the NFL, MLB playoffs, and now NBA games. It's time for the Boston Celtics to run it back and defend their title, and with Game Time, you can be there and see it all live. You might see Bob Kraft sitting courtside with your favorite Patriots player, a celebrity in the stands, band appearances. You don't know unless you go, and with Game Time, you can get there. Check out Seat View before you buy. Get a lowest price guaranteed. And with options like event cancellation protection or job loss protection, your purchase is always safe. My favorite feature of Game Time, all-in pricing. That means we see the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Not just sporting events, but if you want concerts, shows, anything you want, Game Time's got you. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
All right, Rich Hill. It is Patriots Jaguars. This is possibly going to have draft implications come April if the loser has a number 1 overall pick or not. These teams are both 1 and 5. New England, I believe, technically as of right now, has a number 1 overall pick in the draft. That could obviously change this week depending on how things go. Let's start off with the Patriots offense versus the Jaguars defense, because that's where we're all excited about. We talked about it in our first and goal about how Drake Maye improved from snap 1 to the very end of the game. What are you looking to see in terms of continued progression for this kid? For me, it's going to be maybe a little more accuracy on his throws. I think it's very expected for an excited rookie to come and overthrow a few guys or put a few in the dirt, get the jitters down. I think now he's going to had a game under his belt. I'm hoping he evens out a little bit more and he puts a little more of his balls on point.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the consistency is the goal. Like, he had 3 very good drives that he made. There was a couple exemplary passes that he made. I'd like to see that happen on a higher percentage of the drives. And that just means, if he can have 4 scoring drives, that's great. That's what I'd love to see. 4 to 5, whether, they're touchdowns or field goals. I just like to see it be more than 3 of them, because if you look at the other drives, he had those 3 really good scoring drives. what did they do with the other ones? There's a lot of turnovers, not necessarily his fault that took place, but a lot of nothing across the other ones. And so even if it's like a drive that goes for 30 yards and they end up punting it, I'd rather that as a sign of progress than going 3 and out. And so I want to see that continued involvement. And what I also would consider a sign of success is if we saw the same production out of Douglas and Booty and some of the other skill players that, oh, okay, these players can do stuff. Because under Brissett, it felt like it was a giant question mark of, is there anyone on this offense that can do anything in the passing game? Because everyone has a stat line of 4 targets, 1 catch for 11 yards, every single player. And to have a couple players be like, oh, I'm a potential 100-yard threat, that changes the game. That means that teams might have to respect and defend them as such, where they hadn't had to do that with Brissett. And so the more you're able to develop, hey, these players are ones that defenses have to account for, then that's progress overall. That might not necessarily be Drake Maye alone, but is a sign that this offense is getting better and better.
And it will force the defense to respect the play action a bit more, which has been getting no love whatsoever from defenses, which would be great. Yeah, just look, if there's just one guy that there's nobody in the Patriots right now that anybody's game planning for specifically. I don't think they have anybody of that level anyway, but if they at least have to pay attention. Like the DBs can no longer sleep through film study and still be fine against this offense.
Yep.
It'd be really, really nice. 2 things I'd love to see from Drake, maybe besides the accuracy I talked about earlier. I don't know how much. I have to go back and watch. I'm not going to do it, but I should go back and watch how much he called plays at the line, or if he audibled at all, if he had any kind of freedom to maybe change the play up once he read the defense. I'd love to give him a little more of a leash. Maybe not let him go out there and just pull Tom Brady and just kind of run the offense, but maybe give him the opportunity to diagnose a defense a little bit, see what he sees. If he makes a mistake, fine, you go back and you correct it in game. I think that'd be really nice to see. And I want to see him extend a few more plays with his legs. He's done it pretty well so far. That's always fun to watch. I don't need like a design Drake Maye bootleg at all, but I want to see his mobility on display a little bit more. Not because he did a bad job with the Texans, more just it's fun to watch. It's a new weapon the Patriots haven't really had in a while. So if we can account for that, or if we can force defenses to account for that, that could also open the passing game a little bit more, because it's not some quarterback who's just immobile back there and they don't really have to worry about him taking off at all. So those are 2 things I want to see him do. The Jaguars defense is not good. Rich, we were going through the roster before we got on air, and we're both like, who I don't know any of these people on this roster. So it's a good final opportunity for the Patriots to maybe take a little breather a little bit in terms of these good defenses they've been facing. I wouldn't say open the playbook up, but they can do things and try things that they can have a little more success. They don't have to worry about this like all-star pass rusher just dominating this offensive line.
Yeah, totally. This is going to be one of the weakest defenses they play all year. They rank 32nd in passing yards allowed this year, which, for a team that loses a lot and is against teams that are likely to run the ball to run out the clock, they rank 32nd in passing yards allowed, 32nd in touchdown passes allowed. They've allowed 14 touchdowns to touchdown passes against 1 interception. They are a bottom-ranked passing defense. They are a middling rush defense. They do have some good defensive front players. Eric Armstead is a good player that they still have up in the middle. Trevon Walker is an upcoming, Josh Hawkins Allen, upcoming pass rushers on the edge, sturdy against the run. They have some talent at that linebacker spot. I like Devin Lloyd a lot. I loved him coming out of the draft, but they have the pieces up front. Where they are completely weak is in that secondary spot. And that's where I feel like the Patriots can really have a really good opportunity to produce. Jaguars rank 31st in the entire league in yards allowed to wide receivers this year. And they've allowed 1,153 yards, 8 touchdowns. Second, most yards overall, second overall, behind only the Ravens in things that they've allowed. They've allowed 93 receptions to wide receivers. To me, I look at it and say Demario Douglas, Booty, Bourne, Polk. I'm going to say that they're my collective X factor. I would love to see one player break 100, 2 others break 50. That's how weak and soft this defense is for the Jaguars. And that's like pretty lofty. Patriots have not, it felt like they haven't had that in a while. But you look at how these other teams have had success through the air against the Jaguars. That's what I'm thinking. If the Patriots are able to do that, have one receiver look like Demario Douglas goes for 100. I can see Hunter Henry cleaning up in the red zone for 2 scores, but to have some of these other wide receivers produce, I think will make it an easy case for the Patriots to win this game.
So you're thinking a very, very pass-heavy offensive approach based on the weakness in the secondary.
Yep, absolutely.
That makes sense. I was going to have Ramondre Stevenson as my X factor, assuming he plays, get off the fumble lights a little bit. I think if he can basically be the weapon he's been all season, and you add on just a little bit that Drake Maye showed against the Texans, where the passing game is I wouldn't call it a big threat, but an actual threat to a defense, that could present a problem to a defense like this. So I want to see Ramondre Stevenson really be able to establish the run, despite the fact that I think you're right, it's definitely a pass-first approach, but you can't just pass. And a good running back and a good tight end are a rookie quarterback's best friend. So I want to see Ramondre get back off the schneid this week.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that happen. I kind of feel like Gibson might be the guy for a little bit, just because of that fumbleitis. And if Ramondre is still dealing with injury, I don't know how much they'd want to ride him in London. But it's a situation where, like, if he goes out there, I wouldn't be shocked if he ran all over this Jaguars team. I would love to see the Patriots offense at full strength, and the offense is so much better when Ramondre's out there doing his thing. And so, yeah, I mean, if he's able to go, and like that's a clear definition of an X factor, if he's able to go out there, then that makes life so much easier for Drake Maye, and that could open up a lot of things through the air as well.
Could be a lot of fun. And there'd be a lot of fun to protect a lead, Rich Hill, which what the Patriots haven't done in a very long time. To move to 4th and goal. Patriots defense versus the Jaguars offense. It's funny, looking back at this roster, I feel like the Jaguars offense on paper has some pretty talented players. Yeah. Obviously, Mac Jones under center is not going to be lighting anybody up, but Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. They have some good receivers. They have a running back with, to your point, you talked about before we got on, an all-time Hall of Fame running back name in Tank Bigsby.
Love it.
Love it. It's got Travis Etienne, who's a good running back. They've got good tight ends. Evan Ingram's a good tight end. They have a decent wide receiver trio in Dave Davis, Tim Jones, Christian Kirk, Peter Parker Washington. They've got decent players on the roster, but they can't seem to put it together. However, Rich, on paper, I like New England matching up against this offense. You put a hat on a hat. I think Pats have a good chance to maybe not give up 41 points this time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that they'll do a lot better against the Jaguars than they did against the Texans, where I feel a little bit of concern. You look at all of the really good players that the Jaguars have on this offense that you've mentioned. Brian Thomas, rookie wide receiver, looks outstanding, averaging 17 yards a catch, huge speedster. I imagine Jonathan Jones gets the matchup on them. And then Christian Kirk probably against Gonzalez as a one-on-one situation. And they have Gabe Davis, who has given the Patriots fits in the past coming over from the Bills. They have a good trio of receivers out there, but it is the running backs that make me feel the most nervous, because you talked about this at the beginning of this podcast of, can the Patriots fix the run defense problem? Because so long as opposing teams are able to run the ball at will, then the Patriots are going to have an exhausted defense because they can't yet rely on their offense to lead extended drives. And that leads to breakdowns in the second half, leads to more missed tackles, leads to more broken down fundamentals. And so if I'm the Jaguars, I'm saying I'm going to try and run the ball as much as I can against this Patriots defense. That is one of the worst in the league against the run. I'm going to push them on this one. Obviously I think they rank like 20th overall in yards allowed per carry, but like they're not as good as that number suggests. Jaguars have an above average rushing attack. And with the Patriots not having Barmore, with them continuing to try and figure out what's happening at that linebacker spot, with Jerod Mayo saying some changes are going to happen. Who knows what the Patriots defensive front will look like? We've seen Dietrich Wise have a handful of penalties, Keon White. Like there's a lot of things that could lead to switches in the defensive front that I don't know if they'd be good or not. But if I'm the Patriots, I'd be very afraid of this Jaguars rushing attack.
Especially given, again, I don't know the last time they gave up less than 150 yards on the ground. I think it was 182 last week. It was like 163 against the Dolphins. It is always a $150 on the ground. And the problem with that especially is these drives, they're just long and they're sustained. And the defense is going to get gassed. I mean, luckily the Patriots had a decent time of possession battles, almost 50-50 against the Texans, but you're seeing some of these games in the past, it's like 40-20 in terms of minutes that the offense has the ball. And if the Patriots are stuck on the field late, you're just going to grind them and grind them and grind them down, which is why I'm actually getting Marte Mapu as my defensive factor. I think he had a great game against the Texans. Couple mistakes, but overall pretty solid in coverage. He was a great pick. I think he's going to be a nice fit for this team, and maybe he can be that kind of thumper, linebacker, hybrid safety who also has the agility and the speed to not just be a run stopper. He can kind of bridge the gap between the secondary and the front seven the way that we haven't had in a while. So hopefully it's not a big game.
Yeah, I mean, he had that pass defended last week against the Texans that led to the interception in the end zone. Love that. I think Mapu has a very bright future. I think pairing him with Tavai and Bentley in the long term is a really good trio, right? That's like an ideal situation because as trends in the NFL are going, the running attack is going to come back, but you still need people who can cover. Mapu's perfect for that. You have Bentley who can go downhill, Tavai that can go downhill. You have Mapu who can do it all. Kind of like a version of Patrick Chung as it relates to the ability to kind of do it all, but having it be less about 3 receiver sets and having it more be 2 tight ends or a running back kind of a defense situation. And so love that. I think that's a really good one. My X factor is also going to be in the defensive front 7. I think that Godshaw had a really good game last week against the Texans. I'd love to see him stack those together, but Ekwale is going to be my X factor for the game because he has been, in my mind, the weak link on this defensive front. Like, obviously, I think that they can do a better job setting the edge. I would love to see more out of Dietrich Wise. Love to see Keon White go back to what he was doing over the first couple weeks of the season. Same with Uche doing better at holding the edge. And Jennings is great. I love seeing Jennings out there. But I think it's Ekwale who gets the snaps. I think he played like 2/3 of the snaps against the Texans. So he's getting the opportunities out there. I just need to see him do more with that because he's getting moved. He's not being as effective as we need him to be to allow the linebackers to do their job. And I don't think that there's other players that are going to supplant him. I don't think that they have the depth at the position to allow it. Like Jaquelin Roy, love seeing him get 2 sacks over the past couple of weeks. Is he good enough to start? I don't think so. And so to have Ekwale, who's been given the opportunity out there, I need to have him have a really good game if the Patriots are going to stop the run.
Yeah, somebody has to step it up, and it's may as well be Ekwale. That's a great pick. I like that. He's one of those guys you kind of forget he's on the team, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for interior defensive linemen, but you want to see him kind of come up and make his name known, which is good. I think this is a nice break for Christian Gonzalez. I don't really see him having a problem with any of these receivers. You see him as a Gabe Davis kind of matchup, one-on-one, or who'd you put him up against?
I would put Gonzalez against Christian Kirk. I think it's just from like a size dynamic perspective. And I think when you have Gabe Davis out there, that might be a Marcus Jones situation. I think Jones has had like an up and down start to the year. But I think from a matchup perspective, like who has the speed, you have Gabe Davis coming out of there. I think you have to go speed on speed with Jonathan Jones and Brian Thomas. Marcus Jones gets Gabe Davis. I imagine there might be some sort of a handoff at some point in time, but I think that the Jaguars are going to do whatever they can to try and get them open in space, and the Patriots have to do whatever bracket coverage they can with whomever is available and hope that Gonzalez can cover Kirk on an island.
Tell you, if Marcus Jones is covering Gabe Davis, get that man a ladder. He's given up like 5 inches, but he's shifty, which I like. Look, again, I think the Patriots are well positioned to possibly win this game. We'll go to predictions soon. I think this is a really, really good follow-up. So I would like to hope that everybody inside that locker room is feeling good about what happened this last Sunday. They're saying the right things. They're talking about we need to encourage each other to do better, but I'd like to hope they saw progress. They're part of something now. They're not just spinning their wheels. And I think they also see in front of them an opportunity for them to move forward as a team and make a bit of a statement on Sunday. To that point, anything else you want to talk about or should get to predictions?
Let's go into predictions, man.
All right. Well, we both foolishly picked the Patriots to upset the Texans this past Sunday. You had a 24-20 Patriots. I had an 18-14 Patriots. Samsonite, were we off? So you were the last one to have it with the Dolphins game, so you get the first pick. Patriots are technically on the road, I think, against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
A long
London,
road.
9:30. Who you got?
Yeah. So for this one, I am going to choose the Patriots again, but only because I feel like the Jaguars are that much of a disaster. They are a loss to the Patriots away from firing their head coach, like immediately before the game ends. That's the state that they're in. And Patriots, I imagine, will be riding this momentum a little bit with Drake Maye. I think you'll see some of the pieces keep coming together. I saw more motion, it felt like, on offense, like as in like literally players running across the field before the snap with Drake Maye under center than we ever saw with Brissett. And that's what I wanted to see. That's the development and progression we need to see from Van Pelt calling the offense. And so if there's the building blocks, I think the Patriots are heading in the right way and the Jaguars are not. And so I'm having the Patriots winning this one. I don't think it'll be a pretty one, but I think the Patriots will win this one something like 27-20.
You son of a bitch. Okay. I was going to pick Patriots 30-20, and now I can't do that because I feel like I'm price writing you. So I'm going to have to cross that one out. Yeah, it's funny. Like I feel like the fact that the Jaguars are like, 5.5-point favorites for this one, I don't think that bodes well for the Jaguars. I saw nothing from the Jacksonville Jaguars this season that leads me to believe they're 5-point favorites in this game. The one thing they definitely have going for them is they play in London so much that maybe they're used to the travel and the jet lag, and that's something that can affect the team. It just can. Anybody who's traveled overseas can tell you it takes you a couple days to really get used to it. It takes you like a full week to really adjust to a time. And the Jaguars they play in London all the time because nobody goes to the games in Jacksonville. But that said, I think the Patriots know they have a chance here to do something good for not only this season but their future and beyond. This is probably a way more important game than it should be for a Week 7 matchup of a 1-5 team, and hopefully Jerod Mayo is instilling that in the team. So since I can't pick 30-20, I will go on the lower end of the scoring spectrum and say the Patriots win this one something like 24-13.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like this. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a game between two of the worst teams in the NFL. And by that, I mean, like two of the bottom 4 teams.
Worst.
So anything could possibly happen. These are two fundamentally unsound teams that will have lots of errors. The variance and opportunity for this game to go 40-40 or be 3-6 is very, very possible. All of these are on the table. And especially you add in the going to London situation. Anything can happen on this one. I kind of feel like the Patriots are due after the past couple of weeks for a good side of the register with regards to like turnover luck. And so I have the Patriots and I feel comfortable with that one. But ultimately, like my last question for you, Alec, thinking of the draft 2025, do we want the Patriots to win this?
Yeah. Is it like, this is like the number 1 overall pick tiebreaker?
Yeah.
I think this would be, I haven't done my draft prep yet because it's freaking October. However, my initial read is this is not a bad draft to not have a number 1 overall pick because you don't need a quarterback. You need a left tackle. That's who you want to go in the first round of 2025, I think. Or unless you do some amazing offseason work, but you want like a stud franchise left tackle, and that can be had in like pick 7 to 12, I think, at this point. So I'd be okay with the benefit of winning this game far outweighs the benefit of losing or winning a tiebreaker for number 1 overall pick. And even if they do win, there's still plenty of chances down the line to screw it up some more. So it's not like this is for the number 1 overall pick on the line. If this game was happening like late December and this would actually decide, maybe a different question. But I want them to win here. Still early enough that maybe they go on some kind of crazy run and they win like 6 in a row, and all of a sudden there's like a scenario where they can sneak into a wild card. I highly doubt it's going to happen, but I can see that narrative manifesting itself starting this week. Question for you, Rich Hill. Is there any way in hell this game is worse than Patriots Colts last year in London?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
totally. I mean, anything's possible. You got a rookie quarterback in his second start going against one of the most underwhelming teams of the past 20 years. Yeah, this could be just as bad. I don't think it will be, because that was when Belichick was fired. Like that is when he should not have come home. So emotionally, that game was far worse. But this is one where there's no expectations. I think the Patriots will play a little bit looser because, again, they have nothing to lose. They got to see what they have. They're not competing to be like, oh, we got to preserve our winning record here. They're trying to figure out who they have. And I think as a result, they're going to play a little bit freer than the Jaguars that are fighting their own expectations and likelihood of their head coach being fired. And so I think that the Patriots will do better than they did last year in London.
Yeah, I hope so. Again, the real heroes are those of us getting up to watch it, which is going to be me. 9:30 a.m. It'll be nice to have the game over by like noon, and I can kind of get on the rest of my Sunday. I've watched very little. I'm not gonna lie. I've watched very little non-Patriots football this season, Rich Hill. It's just harder to get into. I feel like the games are very, very hard to watch, with officiating being what it is and commercials every 2 seconds. It's just the product isn't as enjoyable as it used to be. Maybe it's just me being curmudgeonly, but I feel like I'm excited to watch the game early and get out of the rest of my day.
What, you mean you're not very read up on this Jacksonville Jaguars team?
I am not.
You just need to know every last detail of this 1-5 monstrosity. No, they are a bad team that is underperforming. And yeah, it's Sunday in a beautiful fall. I hope everyone can enjoy their afternoons. Alec, I got nothing else on this one. Nope. I am hopeful that we'll be able to break this down with a Victory Wednesday podcast next week. But do you have any final thoughts on week 6 of the NFL season, or week 7? I mean,
week 7, again, it is wild to me that we are already approaching the halfway point of the year. It always happens. I don't know how it always flies by, but it always does. But I'm glad I got you here to ramble to, because if it was just me in the basement talking to myself, which I have done on occasion, it wouldn't quite be as therapeutic. So I appreciate your service, Rich Hill.
All right. Well, anytime, I'm here for you. And until next time, Alec, you have a good one.
You too, buddy. See ya.